Well, good evening. Yeah, I love doing that. Well, good evening and welcome to Business After Hours. Although in the Strong College of Business, it's always business 24/7, right? Always business all the time here in the college. But welcome. My name's Ken Kahn. I'm the Dean of the Strong College, and it's certainly on behalf of our faculty and staff and students, welcome to the After Hours edition. It's sponsored by our Master of Business Administration program, and the focus today will be on technology. So I have the pleasure and honor of introducing our panel, and then I will turn it over to Dr. Erica Marsalek, who will actually be serving as the panel moderator. So on our panel, we're going to start with Dr. Diaz. We have Dr. Rafael Diaz, who is an ODU professor and Commonwealth Cyber Initiative Fellow. He serves as the Graduate Program Director for the School of Cybersecurity and is also the Director of the Supply Chain Cybersecurity Research Cluster. He received his PhD in modeling simulation, focused on supply chain management, and has an MBA from Old Dominion University. I think we've heard of that place. His research includes digital supply chains operations management, artificial intelligence, specifically with machine learning, prescriptive analytics, lean manufacturing, homeland security, and cyber risk management. So, Dr. Diaz, welcome. We also have Nicholas Saltzman. Nicholas Saltzman is right in the middle. Nicholas is a seasoned tech entrepreneur, a U.S. Army veteran, and currently pursuing a DBA, Doctor of Business Administration at West Virginia University. As a double monarch, he holds an MBA with a concentration in business analytics and a BSBA from Information Systems and Technology from ODU. There's a theme here, as you can probably pick up. While actively contributing to the academic realm, Nicholas continues to pursue his passion for entrepreneurship through his role in tech consulting and his personal ventures. And our last speaker is Ian Taylor. I guess we should. Our last speaker, but not least, is Ian Taylor. Ian Taylor has a Bachelor's of Science in Economics and a Master's degree in Economics from Old Dominion University. I really like this theme. He currently is chair of the Economics Department at Virginia Peninsula Community College, taking an innovative approach to integrating technology in the classroom and earning him recognition through grants and presentations nationwide. Recently, Ian founded a startup in education called Question Foundry, and if you're interested, it is indicated that we should be going to the Canvas Commons titled AI with AI, correct?
Yeah, for open source question development.
Yeah, he is recipient of the prestigious Dana Hamel Award for significant contributions to Virginia's community college system. Mr. Taylor. So with that, I'm going to thank you for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Marsalek.
Thank you, Dean Kahn. So I am not a tech head. So this is going to be as interesting to me as it is to you. And I'll just lead with, we're going to try to save the questions for the end, if that's okay. I have a feeling we're going to get some momentum rolling, and we want to keep it rolling as we go through the questions. But my first question is actually to the audience, which is, what is AI? Artificial intelligence. Okay, what does that mean? Does that mean like I've got a plastic brain sitting over here? What is artificial intelligence? Any ideas? Are we using it every day?
Yes.
Without possibly knowing that we're using it every day, right? Okay, so massive quantities of data, okay, just sitting there. Being analyzed. Massive quantities of data stored somewhere in the cloud to be analyzed, okay? All right, so I'll refer us to what Stanford University says it is as of 1955, not 2024, but 1955, they say AI was first defined by their professor, John McCarthy, who said AI is the science and engineering of making intelligent machines. Making intelligent machines. It's not exactly what I think of it as today, right? So what is it today? Well, pretty much everybody's heard of ChatGPT, right? Do we agree that's AI?
It's no longer just science and technology.
It's no longer just science and technology, okay?
Because business has gotten involved. And when business gets involved, it becomes a Wild West.
So when business gets involved with science and technology, it becomes a wild west. Okay, so anybody have a digital assistant? Okay. You know, maybe your Apple Watch is telling you need to slow down or sleep better or things like that, right? What about Siri? Okay, suggested products from Amazon, right? What about your self-driving Teslas? What was that Netflix movie where they were all trying to smash into people, right? So
My phone is starting to tell me to do that.
your phone is starting to tell you to do things?
Yeah.
Are you listening?
It's interesting. I mean, it's sort of weird. You'll pull out your phone and it says, "Are you ready to go to work now?" And I'm like, "Ooh, wow." And then it'll like pop up on your Google Maps. I don't know if they did around the update, but it's like predicting where you're gonna be going at a certain time.
So it's mapping your activities, your movement, those sorts of things, right? So for me, that's a little bit of the creepy portion of it. We'll get into addressing some of that, but IBM, a little more recently, defined something of a more current definition of AI as technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human intelligence and problem-solving capabilities. Simulation of human intelligence and problem-solving capabilities. And AI essentially involves algorithms. What are algorithms? Steps to complete a process. Oh, here we go. Our cybersecurity undergrad and graduate. What's an algorithm?
I was gonna say the same thing, like the steps taken to complete like a task or,
So it's a to-do list,
yeah, it could be, yeah.
okay? A digital to-do list that it's following. And perhaps it's also telling us what to do next. Okay, time to get up, time to go to work, etc. All right. So these algorithms in AI are modeled on the decision-making processes of our brains. And the difference, though, is similar to, you know, when you have a child growing up, these algorithms can learn. They can modify their own patterns of behavior. They can identify patterns, those huge, vast amounts of data that you were talking about that are sitting in a cloud somewhere, not a storage closet, but a cloud somewhere, that in fact we want to analyze. They're identifying patterns from that data. And they're making continually improving, hopefully improving, classifications or predictions over time. So, you know, it's not exactly a black box, right? But now we've sort of discussed a little bit about AI. I'm going to turn it over to our panelists for our first question tonight, which is, how do you see AI used in each of your particular specialty areas? Whoever wants to go first. There's one mic, and we're going to be going back and
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. All right, you guys hear me? Sweet. So I'll talk a little bit about education. I see it as greatly disrupting education because right now we are just beginning to see the great leaps and bounds. If you pay for the pro versions of ChatGPT, if you pay for the pro versions of Claude, if you understand how to take specific information and then upload it into these machines to say, hey, point at this to get the factual information, that greatly increases the quality of the outputs that you're getting. Like we're getting to the point now where we have college and post, so 2-degree and 4-year degree levels of performance for expertise for doing recall, for expertise for doing critical thinking and analysis. And so this is going to greatly change, like, what does education look like? Because what does the worker look like? If a worker now essentially has an infinite number of assistants that are digital that they can use and role play to help them, and this is an additional tool does that change from the student just having to recall, or does that change for us now focusing more on critical thinking because we're having them always using this digital assistant tool with them all the time? Similarly to how we have calculators that are assisted in math class. I think that we will see AI being used similar to calculators, where the decisions for how we use artificial intelligence in class will happen at the individual course level, down to the individual assignments. Some math classes, you're not allowed to have calculators in class because you need to learn how to do algebra. So you do it on paper, pencil and paper. I think we'll see similar uses where exams will be proctored, where you can't have Gen AI tools. Certain educational assignments inside the classes, you can't have AI tools. But outside of that, it's going to be encouraged, because if employees are expected to use these tools, then as educators, it is our responsibility to help prepare these students for entering the workforce. And thus, I think we are behooved to learn these AI tools ourselves to be able to educate our students.
And I'm kind of working on the commercialization aspects of AI. I'm the Wild West gunslinger that Dr. Khan was speaking about. But basically, just like a researcher, an entrepreneur seeks gaps and holes in the market and finds ways to exploit them for profit, ideally. So where we're seeing AI and commercialization, I mean, at the very basic level for all businesses, it's a business process automation. You know, it speeds up your iterations, whether that be sales cycles or the number of emails that can go out a day, or whatever manual process you're doing right now. It just kind of speeds that up. We like to think of AI more of the search engine of search engines. You know, we have so much data on the internet right now, and Google will get you a start there. But if you want more confined stuff or things that are that have certain boundaries of the results, that's where AI is kind of coming into play, that we're utilizing it, and we're seeing some pretty exciting results from it right now.
Well, good evening, everyone. So in my area is AI and supply chain / cybersecurity. We're looking at, you know, a lot of improvements that can be generated, especially in supply chain innovation. So when you think about innovation, you think about the process of creating an idea, generating this idea, and then building some scenarios. So what these have allowed me to do with my teams is now get into the weeds very quickly, and then understand, what are the market constraints of our idea, rather than be waiting for, a software engineer to train and learn some modules. Then they generate code. So goes a little bit more to the comments that we were talking earlier, is that now the project scientist that is helping me to do my supply chain innovation products is different than just creating and just generating algorithms. Now she or him or they will be able to bring, the expertise of critical thinking, just asking to human machine interface to ChatGPT. It's not Google anymore. Now we want it had the ability to understand and make easier, smoother, that interaction, collecting information, and then creating these algorithms in no time. I have proof, from my teams that took like 6 months to create something that now takes seconds because of the ability of the researchers to bring that and then create supply chain new products that were not available before. So we're still experimenting for example, in risk management. And that's another area that we are looking at. We are in the academic side. We also putting exercises for the students to be able to interact with ChatGPT or whatever AI, generative AI is, and then analyze data, detect anomalies, and then bring those controls and create programs that are robust in terms of this risk management. So that is one of the few things that we are doing, experimenting, exploring with ChatGPT, and then creating these scenarios to understand what are the implications.
That makes me think too of I joked when ChatGPT really sort of got announced last year, I was like, okay, so how long until I am an avatar professor? I gave it maybe 3-4 years until, physically, I don't need to be there. I know we Zoomed, the panelists Zoomed before getting here just to sort of prep. And his profile picture, he's like, that's AI. What? It looked fantastic. I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. Now we'll get into some of I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference between that and real life. So we'll get into some of those things, but our second question is really to discuss what are some pros and cons of AI applications, because, it could be maybe me being a avatar professor is a good thing. Maybe there's some cons of it. So what do you, in your various areas, or what do we want to discuss as pros and cons of AI?
I'll do the really obvious con first, and that's cheating, right? Education, anyone you first see it. Last year, Chegg is a very popular cheating site, educational assistant site that's publicly traded, and it dropped value 40%. The first opening day of trade after their public earning call, and the CEO mentioned that they were losing subscriptions due to the increase in performance from ChatGPT. So that was like the biggest economic signal that I've seen recently that shows like, here's a value signal that here is a quality for the performance. The performance is going to increase. And so we all students right now have a risk, because it's super easy to pull out your phone and then just get to an ever increasing quality standard answer. So I can pull out my phone. By the way, Copilot by Microsoft is a free app that you can download on your mobile device. And if you can switch it to use ChatGPT-4, this is great for like if you want to get an introduction of how do I use Gen AI tools. It's awesome. You can do image analysis, like find things if you're walking in the park, identify plants, other random stuff. Same thing though, if you come over into a classroom and then students want to use it nefariously, that's still hurting the student. Because if the student is not learning the actual concept that is being taught, anytime in the future, if that concept is needed and the student doesn't know it, it will harm them in the future. So it's a short-term gain for a long-term harm that is also worse for the employer, which is also worse for the educator. So when you, like, once you see the long-term goal is that we have to figure out now which of the, which skills, which the cons are, we have to figure out which of the skills are we teaching that students are going to still be able to apply and benefit from in the future with this changing landscape of how we interact with information. Originally, we're interacting with information from Google. Now we're doing it on our phones. Soon it will just be augmented reality. Apple just came out with the Vision Pro. It's all additional just interfaces for us to get this additional information. So I think the pro is we're educators. So we're lifetime students. This is an awesome time to be alive. Like the capabilities of the Gen AI tools for us to be able to quickly solve problems is amazing. The Gen AI helps you do things. Imagine that you always have a plumber, an electrician, a dentist. Like you keep going down the job board. You role play the AI as that needed expertise. And then now you have that digital assistant to help you learn how to do the stuff. So I see the pro as a huge in helping us teach students how to do. And it will first be us ourselves learning what are the benefits as other companies and businesses will explain how they see the benefits in it.
And one of the arguments we hear frequently is, well, this takes jobs away. This takes, base level positions away and stuff like that. And I think that we need to, the metaphor that I use often is, people were worried about losing jobs when the shovel came out. All the people that were digging holes by hands no longer had a job because a shovel's now existing. And I think that we need to be a little more comfortable with the technology and just understand how it fits holistically inside of our society. Is that ideally those positions aren't gone, they're just displaced. So they're now experts in mathematics and the statistics behind the AI. and they're experts in prompting. I mean, even, we could have punch card users of today essentially with, feeding the AI properly and getting the desired results. So I think one of the big things that I just want to dispel is that this doesn't make a net loss of jobs occur. I don't believe. I think this is a net job creator and imaginative spark creator as well, right? I mean, without the space program, we didn't know that we'd need rocket scientists, and without some of the great tech innovations that we've had, we didn't have computer science majors. So I think that this creates a new aspect of our society that we should embrace and be excited for.
Thank you. So yeah, in terms of the pros, in supply chain, we do a lot of like optimizations and try to make the use of resources more efficient. And before, one of the big complaints was that, well, some of these mathematical programming don't capture some of the uncertainties, and then that's the real life. And then, well, that's a good complaint, right? But if you have a very good, stable environment, it works out great. Well, with artificial intelligence, with machine learning, and we are able now to capture some of these underlying paths that create that uncertainty that were not evident before. And we don't even have to see it. Now what we do is just given the data that it's producing, is reliable because it's considering all these uncertainties that were not considered before. So we're getting more accurate in terms of, and that's part of the success of artificial intelligence in decision making. But at the same time, the cons of that is that if that data is not good, the results are going to be not good either, right? So that's one of the cons that we have to pay attention. Likewise, if the algorithm that we're using have already some bias, then this bias actually artificial intelligence may be even magnifying those bias. And that's not great either. So we have to find a way to understand what are those results and then get back again to the initial idea of the professional that we are looking at now is somebody with critical thinking enough that is able to understand, when something is missing and what is not, and see with different angles, so it's able to produce decisions that are supported by now this tremendous amount of data interpreted, in a way that now humans, we are able to make decisions and innovate and say, hey, today we have this route, and now that I have this route, now unfortunately this bridge failed yesterday. So now there is a regional reconfiguration of the supply chain, and then where we go to make it more, faster and better, and keep the productivity that is important for our economy.
And I know that once we get to the questions, I'm gonna have quite a few about some of that stuff too. I'm hoping I'm not the only one. So let's talk about issues with AI. Not pros, not cons, but issues with AI, because, for example, we now have pictures that don't exist in real life, right? We used to have bias about certain things, and now I can't tell the difference. I mean, yes, maybe some picture has 6 fingers instead of 5, but other than that, it looks pretty good to me. So let's talk a little bit about AI issues, and we can split them up. We might have, let's talk about ethical issues first. What are ethical? I mean, I know cheating, number 1, right? But what about ethical issues with AI?
There's a scarier ethical issue, and that's with the deep fakes. And that's where you can use a few seconds of audio and now replicate that person's voice. This is why we had the SAG-AFTRA strikes with actors, because now you can design your own human voice that's going to be used for entertainment. So if I am a producer and I'm thinking, do I need to hire a human, that I am now at risk of humanly things like them getting sick or moving to somewhere else? Or do I design this AI voice myself where I have complete control and artistic that I can keep with the company and everything else? Images of people, your audio, and just the cheapness of being able to use these tools. The FTC recently came out with proposed regulations for impersonations, because that's what's at risk here, is us being impersonated by fake stuff. And it's interesting because it covers American companies, it covers agents, it covers American government, and covers their agents, but it doesn't cover individual citizens. And it's only monetary, it doesn't do with criminal. I think we're going to have to see something come towards the impersonation for the ethics, and then also the attribution. Because right now, we're still figuring out what are the copyright issues for all of the training data that went into feeding the machines for these models to learn. And then what about the copyright issues of the outputs? So everything that's coming out of it. If you go to OpenAI's attribution brand page, you will see that humans are not legally required to give any attribution to the OpenAI outputs. That means if you get any outputs from ChatGPT, you can call them yours legally. OpenAI has also said that they will fund the legal services for anyone that is suing you for using their product. So you see these actions that the companies are taking, and so it's in their incentive to not make the outputs attributable. Because in making the outputs attributable, they now introduce themselves to legal risk, because they're now giving the attributability for the copyright. So I don't think that we will ever see them move to giving full attribution on the stuff. And so instead, we just have this amazingly productive, performant machine that is currently accessible to the public. But those ethical issues of attribution and copyright and the impersonations.
And then just to kind of pile on that, the next step, I mean, we just had a court ruling that the user of AI output cannot copyright themselves that output either. So if I want to post that on my website, it's not necessarily my copyright, it's my semblance, but it's not my work either. So we're kind of in a standoff here as far as how that goes. I think one of the greatest issues is that these systems can process data a whole lot better than the human cognition can. Just like we talked about with the Zoom meeting, you didn't know that I had an AI headshot because it looked like it. You know, I think if anybody watches UK news and the Royals, you know, the big question was, where's Kate Middleton? And when she showed a picture, she used some AI tools on it. And so you think about it in the grand scheme. So she has cancer that we found out, and she was using that to try to make herself look healthy and safe to us. But what do we do with that when the CEO of a large public organization does the same thing? What would we have done if Steve Jobs, when he was going through his health issues, if he looked perfectly fine? We as humans may not have the cognition to tell the difference. And now we're making investments in companies under false pretenses. So I think that that's the scariest issue, is can we tell the difference, and will we be able to tell when it really counts? And when it really counts for a lot of people, it's when dollars and cents are part.
Okay, now I put my hat a little bit from cybersecurity, and then looking at like social engineering and, you know, some impersonation, you know, and looking at, you know, understanding in that impersonation, that in that access that potentially can get or given to somebody because they were able to mimic to the point that it's very hard to discern what is true, what is false. And then I don't think we are trained in, and I think, you know, most of us agree, we are trained to understand, you know, the implication. We may be skeptical about things, but then to what extent we want to be skeptical, right? So that's something I still have questions, you know, about, you know, is like, do we need, like, what kind of filters we need to have so that we don't get caught into this type of schemes that are detrimental to not only us as a family or individuals, but also to our organizations and businesses. So it's horrible, right? I mean, that is the bottom line. So because we are, it's so new, right? It's part of the innovation. You know, we try to understand, we use it to maximizing what we can do, and it's amazing on the one hand, and the other hand, it can be it's scary, you know, because we don't train, we don't know how to make perceive those things, that difference that may be so subtle that we can be imperceptible to our sensors.
And when you talk about like security and risk, you know, the issues with that, I mean, I'm thinking like, okay, so any sort of voice recognition, is that what, there's a very old commercial, I'm gonna date myself, where is it Live or is it Memorex? Which was, you know, it was recording a tape and it was so good. Is it live or is it recorded information? But that make, you know, voice recognition. Who am I Zooming with? Who is calling me? I mean, the scams that they already have, you know, somebody calling, oh, this is your grandson, I need to get bailed out of jail. Can you send money or this, that, or the other? You know, so there's some of that. You also talked about some IP issues, right? So it sounds like I can use, they don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. They want me to use it. They want me to have my neck on the line if it's a problem, because, you know, for academia writing papers, there's also, I have colleagues who are like, well, it's a lot faster for me to use this. And I'm like, well, but that's like another author. There are ethics involved in who is writing this. Well, I don't have to officially put that down as a co-author, but it's not my stuff. So there are some issues with that, but, you know, security risk. And you talked a little bit, you touched on workforce concerns. So I had attended a conference that was addressing some of this, particularly for academia. And the expression that it's not mine, I borrowed it, I'm using it liberally, was AI won't take your job for most of you, for most of us. But someone who knows how to use AI will. So part of that is a friend of mine who's an architect is basically like, I'm not going to recommend this career to anybody now, because I used to get, you know, a project that was good for 10 weeks worth of work to design a house or this, that, or the other. And I could charge for 10 weeks worth of work. And now they go out and have AI generate a plan for a house. And all they need to do is bring it to me and I have to check it. So now I'm charging for 2 weeks worth of work instead. So can we talk a little bit about workforce concerns? You touched a little bit about, okay, I'm not learning the skill set in the first place, so that has longer term repercussions, but what kind of workforce concerns are we looking at in terms of our various fields?
Yeah, so a really interesting one. My son is actually an IP tech trans attorney, and he and I have spoken about at great length that the transactional side of the legal business is going to be gone. I mean, think of it now. We can go to LegalZoom.com or Rocket Lawyer, and we can have a contract made for us that's specific to our state. And, you know, before, so a local attorney, you'd go down to their shop, you'd pay them some exorbitant hourly fee, and they would give you a template that they've been using for the past 40 years. So, yeah, maybe there's some redundancy that we can cut out of that, but there's certainly some workforce that'll be alleviated from that. I think one of the interesting things in academics, and you guys can probably speak to this a little bit better, is the literature review. Like where we go and we just understand what the literature currently says. That process doesn't necessarily need to exist now. I mean, sure, there needs to be some, you know, some oversight and some insight put into that, but you know, where does that go? So ultimately, like I said, I still feel passionately that we're not going to have a net loss of workforce, that we're going to have a net positive from this, but we do need to be aware that there are some industries that are going to be affected and displaced, if not replaced.
Yeah. Yeah. My friends, my colleagues that teach English are having to change with doing lit reviews. Some of it starting off as, okay, now let's analyze the outputs from these GPTs and then talk about why they're wrong. We're still in the age that we have 3.5 from ChatGPT is still pretty low quality. Like it will get a lot, it will make up fake stuff. It will say things incorrectly. And so that opens the opportunity for faculty to then say, here are the reasons why it's wrong, and then start doing the critical analysis on it. On the workforce side, we're still trying to estimate economically what jobs are being replaced. Klarna is a global financial firm, and last month they announced that they did a 1-month beta of using OpenAI in their services for customer agents, and had the ChatGPT do the work of 700 humans in the month, and are now projecting a $40 million profit from not hiring humans. So we're seeing very real, in economics, we call it creative destruction. Similar to how now all of us stream Netflix instead of buying VHS tapes and DVDs. Streaming is a creative technology. It's wonderful. It also destroyed the lives of workers that were on VHS tape lines, right? Those aren't around anymore, but for consumers, it's to our benefit. We'll continue to see similar stuff. This generative AI is really weird because not a lot of people anticipated that it was coming over the creative sector, because a lot of the creative jobs that is just text-based. So if you're ever curious of, okay, what can Gen AI do for me? Anytime you generate or write text, you could be using a GPT. Anytime that you're having to generate an image, you could use a text-to-image generator or image-to-image generator. Anytime you make video, then you could use something like Runway or Midjourney to create some video for you. Like you learn to then have the different tools that you reach for depending on the type of work that you're doing. And I think that as we learn which tools to reach for, and as we learn the prompt engineering that you referenced, the prompt engineering is knowing how to ask the GPT to get a different output. So say, for example, ChatGPT started off as text to text. So I would give it text input, and then it would give me text back. I added an assignment in my Econ 200 level courses for students using Gen AI as a research tool for finding out information for their desired occupation, and saw from student submissions, you get very different outputs depending on the information that you give the thing. So for example, if I just said, give me a web page about the job beach, then it is probably going to give me some links, not give me an actual web page. If I were to say, give me as a BLS expert, give me the OEWS web page for the job best matching beach, then it will give me back a whole links about the lifeguards. I've got links from National Forest Services. Like it will understand BLS means Bureau of Labor Statistics. OEWS means Occupational Employment Wage Statistics. So it's cognizant enough to be able to take the acronyms and then through inference understand that I am using those acronyms to go to the economic information because I'm asking about the job information. And seeing that there's like, that to me is really, really cool, because it presents itself as a research tool for the students to help to make them more productive, to make them eventually more higher quality labor, better workers, and just happier themselves as they like at home, instead of going to a website for recipes to cook, just go straight to ChatGPT and say, as this specific chef, give me this recipe. And then it'll give you the steps and the information directly without having to go through all of the ads and the other stories that you get on normal web pages. It's a new way to surf the internet.
Well, with my teams, I experienced personally, that, or experiencing now, that shift, what we need in the workforce. So I saw when we wanted to create the brain for this supply chain project that right now we're doing, that, I saw a couple software engineers struggling to trying to get this optimization and still was not enough. In weeks after weeks after weeks. And then when that was like year and a half ago, and then when we saw this the emergence of ChatGPT, it was like, well, can you give us the algorithm to do that? Here it is. Like, what? So, and then we say, okay, well, now, seems like we have a tool. Let's try this tool to rather than be struggling on learning on new packages, stuff like that. And then when we start looking at the outputs, that were great. And then for the ideas that we have, that the programmers were not able to understand some of the limitations. You know, they were not able to, well, here is what you ask us, yeah, but what is number from? Why you are using this in opposed to this? You know, it's here clearly that you have these options. They didn't know how to, you know, because now using this tool is helping us to speed up, you know, some of the implementations. But on the other hand, you don't have the right profile, you know, they were not able to understand how to translate, how to implement those new algorithms. And then say, well, it became clear to us that, you know, we need to, it's because obviously they don't have the same, you know, some of the background information. And so how we want to move forward, you know, and then try to implement these and then work very close. So it was saving us time learning to program certain things, but at the same time, it's putting more requests of our time in us, because then now we have to be on the top trying to interpreting that for them. So it's like, but we're gaining, you know, speed in coding, but at the same time, we are losing effectiveness because now the PIs and co-PI need to be more involved in terms of that to be translating that, because they're not, these profiles not able to. And then likewise for the risk management, when we are now thinking about putting new classes together, we're thinking about, you know, creating tools that help the student to develop that critical thinking that we initially talked about, so that when they are facing a business situation, that they have to do some planning. When you go to ChatGPT and have some strategy, it's not just copy and paste, but they have to understand what are the implications, have to be able to think critically about what they're going to select. And that is going to speed up a lot of time, you know, especially for, you know, like some of the things that we've seen in the past years, a lot of like high-fee consultants, $60,000 for a small business. And then now you don't need that, because when you have like the right profile, able to extract that information, interpret it, and put a plan together, it's not even 10%. So that is we see that impact in the small businesses, and at the same time, a better performance, you know, collectively among all the small and medium enterprises.
Well, and that's a great segue into what we'll have as our last question, then we'll do Q&A from the audience, but talking about opportunities and trends and growth areas for our various you know, specialties. For example, and things move fast. Things move very fast. I do supply chain stuff, and you know, even 3-4 years ago, when I talked to the students about, you will have your packages delivered by drones to your house. They're like, no. And they're doing it in Chesapeake from the Walmart, you know? So you know, I mean, COVID was a great disruptor as well that sped up a lot of trends and sped up things that were coming, but in your particular areas, what do you really see as growth opportunity? What do you see as, you know, I mean, if you want to give us like specific stock tips, we're fine with that too. But, you know, what are the things that really come forward? And I would also see if you could also position that a little bit with what are the skills we need as individuals to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. Because what I hear you talking about is, I still need critical thinking. I still need base knowledge because ChatGPT is gonna tell me something and I have to figure out if that's true or not. So it's almost like, I hate to be in a business school saying this, but maybe I need a liberal arts education. So, what kind of opportunities, what kind of skills do we need to also take advantage of those?
I think the most interesting skill is just mathematics. I mean, that's what all of AI is. It's a regression algorithm. It's, it's basic statistics just on steroids with a lot more input. When I explain it to people, I say, AI is input mathematics, corpus mathematics, output. That's all it is. So I think as far as we're progressing and we're evolving in AI and in the marketplace, we already have the prompts. So we have the AOL versions, the way to get into the internet, the very first versions of that. We already have the Googles, the search engines. We have the ChatGPTs. We have the Copilots and all the other great stuff. I think in the near term, the next set is actually going to be AI engine building dynamic. So there's going to be a way to create your own AI corpus a little bit easier than what we have currently. And instead of using an external engine, which may have programmer bias in it. So I think the next big step is, mom and pop's ice cream shop that's hopefully really tech savvy. They're going to have their own AI engine that goes through their menu and through their communications of the corpus, and they're going to be able to spit out stuff and tailor it to exactly what they want their brand messaging to be. So the first step right now is we interface with it. The next step is we create our own engines and models for our individual uses.
Well, actually, one of the things that we right now experimenting in the use of AI is to creating agents. That you have your own agent that, given a set of clues, they is able to structure some of these questions that are make it understandable to the teams that are working generating this innovation, which is weird, right? Because creating agents, so rather than just go and be right now, we are our own agents. We are generating the questions, but now we are creating this agent that has the ability to interpret what we're doing, what we want to accomplish, and then go ahead and then go and search for that. So that it can be even more effective because now they have data about the search in the areas, and then how that feedback is and that comes in seconds. Is this right? Is not right? So it's my agent to what if, so creating these agents, validation of these agents. Is this agent trustworthy enough that we are able to give them, some of the tasks to speed up, the generation of this idea, specifically in innovation, and then test that in some scenarios, some of the simulation that we found in the language of the definitions. Can we create an agent that, you need two agents, one to idea generation and one for scenario analysis. We still don't know. We're working, but the progress shows that we are going into a good direction because we are able to do things that we were not able, that are above the scope of the initial goals that we have as a project. So we have a lot of research to do still to understand what is the impact of artificial intelligence in the idea generation and the scenario analysis and the sensitivity analysis and how they combine, and then dealing with some of these problems that is this reliable or not, this data is how we can test that. And then at the same time, is having data that is sensitive to businesses, like the problem with Samsung. Then, is they put some data there, the workers will put some data there, and then that sharing with everyone some of the data that got proven that data got leaked out from the company, sensitive data. So do we need an agent to help us to filter out? An agent is one of the ways to do it. So there are infinite other ways, maybe not agent, but maybe something else, other type of filters that help the human machine interaction, because in general, that's what we see the next step is to learn more about, how we can enable and use and leverage this technology so that we can make more progress.
So I think the best thing that anyone can do to get best prepared is to come to VPCC to get their 2-year degree, and then come to ODU to get a degree in econ, and then go to the MBA. And then other than that, it is to do something. Legit, just pick something to do. If it is building a birdhouse in your backyard, that's a project where you can pull out Copilot and then start asking it questions and treat it as if you had an expert friend at birdhouse making. And they're just hanging out with you. Just ask it like, all right, take a picture of your backyard. Where would be the best place for me to put this birdhouse? What type of food should I go buy depending on what type of birds that I want to come visit? Just let yourself get into that imagination of what should I ask? Because the main pipeline, the main barrier of getting the output performance from these chat GPTs, from all these GPTs, is knowing what to ask it, is knowing the prompting. I see it with my students in the quality of the submissions base, because when you use Copilot, for example, you can have it share the chat history. So that way for education, that's how you can solve the attribution problem, because now you get the full, here's all their inputs, here's all the outputs from the GPT. So you immediately see what do they go in, what did you get out of it? And so just by doing something yourself and discovering what are the capabilities of this tool, I found is by far like the best way to just learn more about it. We are all still learning about it. We still, prompt engineers are very new jobs that are available. They're 6-figure jobs starting out, like, because it's super useful. Once you decide what you're doing, those tasks, that's when you can start to replace it with the AI. That's when you replace it with agents. And that's where like the beauty and humanity, if you then think about who are all the humans involved in this task of doing this thing, each one of those humans that is doing something different is an opportunity to replace them with an agent. Then you start looking at and seeing what is text inputs, what is image inputs, what is audio inputs, those discern which tools you would need, right? And then it's just a step of going from the person with the idea of how to do this stuff and then jumping into the actual doing. If it's ethereal and if it's software, we're getting to the point with, anyone heard of Devin AI? Devin AI is now, that is an agent for software. Legit, you tell Devin, here's the type of thing that I want to make. And then on a same screen, you get them going into GitHub for human task management to say, here are the things that I'm going to build, and then see them actually writing the code as if I had my developer in Argentina that I was screencasting. Like real advances that as we have more of these tools that give us the power of other humans for $20 a month for access to all of these experts, it then becomes, what do we ask it? So the project management of the tasking, the managerial side of how do I manage these humans to then understand like my project to see it to fulfillment. I think those are the main skills that we will end up teaching. And then in our specific disciplines is how we're going to show them to more apply those discipline specific skills for education.
I mean, to me, it sounds like it's a combination of, I'm learning a new language, I'm learning a new culture, I'm learning a new behavior. I mean, you might as well just, take me and plunk me somewhere else and go, have at it, figure it out. So a lot of creativity, a lot of opportunity there. Now we're open for you guys. Yes. He's gonna ask for Scott.
No, I'm not. So I will preface my question by saying I am not a tech person. And I've heard of a lot of the capabilities, a lot of the upside, a lot of, things to be able to be done quicker. my question is, as a society, have we given enough thought to pitfalls that could be catastrophic to society with AI? And from an oversight standpoint and an accountability standpoint, where does that responsibility lie?
So as a society, we've given up that, we've answered that question many times over and over and over again. It's, where does the Google search algorithms end? You know, they've had their finger on the scale of search and they're giving us whatever they feel is the best response possible. I mean, even going back, Milli Vanilli, we accepted that it wasn't them singing. That's okay. You know, it's going a little deep for some people, but you know, we've accepted that Snapchat filters are okay now. We've accepted that, I mean, even in the daguerreotype of the photos in the 1870s, that people brush them up, they clean these. We've allowed this over and over and over again. And it's not necessarily a new conversation, but a continuation. And is this where we want to draw the line in the sand? That's what we all need to kind of ask ourselves as a society. But we do need to be mindful that historically we continue to allow it to happen and we're okay with it because it produces pretty cool stuff.
How do folks feel in the national security realm?
Yeah, well, for some reason, right? I mean, like the White House now is creating the artificial intelligence, and then you see in the European community that they are trying to regulate somehow, you know, that access. And then the way that they regulate is by penalizing when they identify that somebody is going into those behaviors. Now, identifying those behaviors are the one that are the challenging, right? Because then you have some of these things that we have talked today about the law and what is allowed, what's not. So I think the conversation is still evolving. The good thing is that the conversation is there, and you know, to what extent, you know, we are, you know, violating civil liberties or not. So that is something that actually we have in our program, people from the Department of Justice, you know, trying to learn more about the technical side, because even though they are doing artificial intelligence, they need to understand the protection of information. And very interesting perspective, but they are willing and want to learn more. So a little bit more. So what we have been talking tonight about, you know, that critical thinking and go beyond, try to understand these different dimensions.
From a society standpoint, this is a polarizing technology. It enables horizontal scaling of human labor. So if I am able to create another Ian, right? That's an AI agent. And then I have my quality that is now duplicated. That looks really cool if I'm able to serve thousands and thousands of students simultaneously. And when they have questions about different homework assignments, different concepts at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and the AI is able to talk to them and answer their question, that's awesome. But then if I'm using it for nefarious means, I'm also scaling my greatness. And I'm also scaling my capability up on the nefarious side. So it is a tool. Tools can be used for good. Tools can also be used for bad. The genie's out of the bottle, so to say. So now we are seeing nations race to be able to increase the performance of this technology. We're seeing nations race for the tools that are needed for the technology. Now, last year, we put in sanctions against China for GPUs. Guess what AI uses? The majority of AI models are built on GPUs. So we're in a race of compute, of trying to figure out how do we have enough power for all of these servers that are running the GPTs. So there are those instances from a society standpoint, but then there's also the familial piece of, so I have a daughter. Do I let my daughter on social media? Do I let her go on Snapchat where they have an AI bot that will talk back and forth where there's no surveillance, right? This AI with emotions, it doesn't, at first there weren't any guardrails and and one of the instances, it led this was white hat attack for a white paper for cybersecurity to try to see before they started instituting guardrails on the AI, and the role played below 18, and then that encouraged more malicious activity instead of saying stop. So like as parents, we have to know, how do I prevent these AI agents that will talk to my concerned human endlessly? They don't tire. They're always available. So now it's like I'm now going to be competing for the attention and for the influence on my family members instead of whatever AI agent is trying to get their attention. Right now we have it with social media because attention is all you need. Social media wants you to stay in. They want to be the ones that are the influencers instead of the parent. So from a familial standpoint, we will have to answer that as a society. But from a society standpoint, yeah, I'm like, I don't know. Right? Because this is just still text, image. You see the Toyota with the large behavior models that allow me to show this is how you open up a water bottle. And then I wait, and then my humanoid robot tomorrow morning can open the water bottle. So the type of mimicry, right? Now I have horizontal scaling for any physical things I do, for mowing my lawn, for weeding my garden. Like these are things that instead of me training, like showing Evie what to do, I'm now could show, so that introduces a whole another level of potential human magnification, of which then is good or bad. And then that's how you get into sci-fi stuff.
Any other questions? No? Yes.
So for someone I've done a little AI, but what would be recommended sites that we should check out if we want to educate ourselves?
Sure, awesome. So ODU through ODU Global has awesome resources. I also have for any ODU faculty, and through the college business, we have a self-paced course for faculty that I have some stuff on syllabus related things. If you're just looking for how do I use generative AI to help my life, get Copilot app. Just go onto your app store and look for Microsoft Copilot. It's their newest version where they have essentially contracted with OpenAI, which is the most performant Gen AI tool, and you get their most performant for free. So that's where I point all my students is going to the Microsoft Copilot, and then you can start using text to text and text to image generation tools. If you're trying to do audio, check out 11 Labs. 11 Labs is extremely performant for doing text to audio or other audio. And then Runway ML for video, and Midjourney is also, Midjourney is also great for images. Oh, Cursor.sh. Yeah, Cursor.sh is a programming software. So if you do any coding, it is AI first. So you literally just type in, here's the green button I'm trying to put on this web page, and then it will generate the code for you. It is absolutely insane. My previous company where I hired a software developer and paid him 75 grand a year, I now pay 20 bucks a month to ChatGPT, and I'm able to just use this. Yeah, I'm the happiest I've ever been coding. It's so fun.
I don't know that there's one definitive source right now. I think that, figure out what interests you, and there's a lot of rabbit holes. The old phrase I have here is the best way to figure out who made a bridge is to look inside of it, because architects like to put their names on things. So just like in software architecture, they like to put their names on it, they like to publish, they like to share. It's a very open community, and just find what excites you and go down those rabbit holes and experiment, break things, fail, and iterate. I think you'll find some good stuff.
Well, for us, the generic ChatGPT, and they give us two broad answers. So we're looking at just generating specific piece of code, and then implementing that and trying and back, and even when we are implementing, even go back and asking for guidance on that implementation to a certain environment, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we kind of mentioned this a little bit, but I'm in a intro to AI class right now, and I talked to my parents and my grandparents about it. So my question is, what would be your thoughts on, I guess, the balance of using AI to make your life easier versus it enabling? Because when I tell my parents about the stuff that I use AI for to kind of make my life easier, they always say back in my day, you know, like back in my day, we used to do this, or we didn't have Google search. We had to go to a library. So,
From a student perspective,
or just in everyday life, or
yeah. So student perspective, if you're doing it for an assignment, then care about what the assignment is asking you for instructions for doing. If it's a student of trying to be performant, or even yourself, just look at the performance of your actual outcome. Were you able to do the thing that you were trying to do? Were you able to do it well enough that you attempted, or that you would have attempted without AI? Like, think of if I ever find myself just copying and pasting from what the AI is doing and I don't know, like with recipes for cooking, I don't know, but I'm in an environment that it's okay that I don't know. If I mess up, I'll make sure I don't mess up bad enough that I do hurt anybody with like sickness, because you could totally get sick from cooking, but it's a low risk scenario. Very different than if I was looking up where should I cut for this organ because I'm a surgeon, right? Totally different risk area of where I'm trying to use this tool to get information. So if you're trying to do discovery, try to make sure it's in a low risk area. And if you're not already an expert in the information, know that you won't know what's wrong. When you get an output from ChatGPT, if I don't know arithmetic, then I don't know 2 + 3 = 4 is incorrect. I have to know that beforehand. So know that you're vulnerable if you're asking ChatGPT to perform an expertise that you don't command that domain.
Yeah, I was just going to build on that as well. I mean, we already have a filter built in. We know that when we go to Google search and we find something, it may not be the top results, it's always the best. So use that filter that, colloquially speaking of it as a BS filter when you're getting output, and say, okay, something's not quite right. But then, just like Ian said, take that other step and investigate why you received that output. Like, learn how that occurred, and it may be able to give you the answer to a question that you have, but take the time to investigate how to arrive at that answer. So not that we don't just understand that 2 + 2 is 4, but why is 2 + 2 is 4? And I think that that's where we're going to continue to learn and grow on our journey. And I think Raphael spoke about that as well, that they had all this great output and they were able to implement it immediately, but they needed to stop and go back and understand that intermediary step and what's occurred there. So use the BS filter and learn the process that's occurred in between, so that you don't just have an end result with no knowledge that's happened.
So, it's a very key word, understand why. And the whys, those that we learn in lean management, the why, the 5 whys. But it's true, just go and try to keep questioning why and the why. And yeah, we may be not an expert on that domain. We try to understand, and we have to understand also that we have a limitation that we don't necessarily know because we're not expert. And so we are getting some output there. So don't go and blindly just use it. Just ask, question that, and keep questioning, and then that's gonna build your knowledge around, and then try and see to what extent you can build that or use it or not. So that is a little bit the guidance. That again, we get back to pretty much the first couple of minutes. Critical thinking is the key in pushing you know, to the true understanding, try to question and bring your team is you working with other people, because they potentially bring some other different perspective, and that would enrich your discussion.
All right, well, this was so good. We have gone over our expected time. So I just want to say thank you to our panelists. I'm sure I'm not the only one who wants to say thank you to our panelists. We have some small swag bags for you guys. We also still have food out in the atrium that we really don't want to cart all home by ourselves. But,
That's something that AI can't do.
and AI cannot do that
They can
for
eat,
us,
that's it.
exactly, but, thank you very, very, very much.
We're still on the phone, but it's gonna be
This has, things that break it, so be very careful.
So we.
Thanks.
Did you create? I need your permission to share the Zoom meeting.
Because otherwise, people are gonna clip you and name somebody else. Right?
I know.
That's great. That was much more.
Yes, we're awesome.